So today we're diving into one of the most disturbing and frankly far-reaching scandals of our time, the Jeffrey Epstein Files. We're going to break down what's actually in these documents, who's been named, and the really tough questions they bring up about power, secrecy, and justice. Let's get into it. This quote, it just perfectly captures the dark world we're about to step into. A world that was somehow operating right out in the open, but at the same time seemed completely beyond the reach of any kind of moral compass. All right, here's our game plan. We'll kick things off by explaining what these files actually are, then we'll walk through the powerful people implicated, how the whole island operation worked, its truly global reach, and finally, what it all really means. So, what exactly are the Epstein Files? I mean, we're not just talking about a few pieces of paper here. This is a massive flood of information that has ripped the curtain back on a deeply, deeply disturbing network. The sheer scale of it is it's staggering. Back in early 2024, a huge collection of documents was unsealed. And that's just part of a much bigger trove that's rumored to contain millions of pages, photos, flight logs, you name it. It all paints this incredibly grim picture of exploitation. Okay, now let's get into some of the biggest American names that pop up in these files. We're going to tackle this almost like a series of case files, just laying out the allegations as they appear in the documents. First up, Bill Gates. For decades, right, he's built this public image as a world-saving philanthropist, a kind of messiah figure working to solve the planet's biggest health crises. But the files? Well, they suggest a completely different story. So here you have this total clash of stories. The files allege Gates went to Epstein for help covering up an STD from his wife. His team fires back saying this is all just a desperate blackmail attempt by Epstein. But then you have his ex-wife Melinda, who has publicly said that Gates' relationship with Epstein was a factor in their divorce. It really complicates things. Next, Donald Trump. And look, his connection to Epstein wasn't just some casual thing. The files suggest it was deep and it was long-standing. Now, Trump has claimed he cut Epstein off years ago, but the documents seem to paint a picture of a much closer relationship. The details laid out here are pretty damning. 14 separate phone numbers? That suggests constant private contact. The allegation about accepting a young girl as a gift is just horrifying. And showing up over 1,000 times in flight records, that points to a major presence in Epstein's world. Now, Trump's team has dismissed all of this as just political propaganda. And the connections to the presidency? They don't stop there. The files also document former President Bill Clinton taking 26 separate flights on Epstein's private jet, a plane that got the infamous nickname the Lolita Express. Clinton's team has really downplayed the connection, but you have to admit, that many trips raises some serious questions about what their relationship was really about. Epstein's network wasn't just confined to the US, not even close. What the files really show is this truly global web, pulling in huge names from the very top of science, royalty, and technology. The range of people involved is it's shocking. On one hand, you have allegations against Stephen Hawking, one of the greatest scientific minds in history. It's claimed he was involved in some sordid stuff on the island, though some people argue Epstein was just using his presence to make the whole thing seem legitimate. And then on the other hand, you've got Prince Andrew, whose alleged involvement was way more direct, being treated like a special guest, for whom girls were supposedly brought in as gifts. And then there's Elon Musk. So leaked emails from 2012 show him asking Epstein about the wildest party on his island. Musk has flat out denied ever going, saying he was invited but always said no. So the question is just hanging there. Were these emails just idle chatter, or did they show he knew about the island's reputation and was maybe interested in checking it out? So how did all of this even happen? How is it possible? Well, the files give us a really chilling look into the meticulously designed system of control and exploitation that was running on Epstein's private island, Little St. James. At the absolute center of this whole operation was Ghislaine Maxwell. She allegedly perfected this predatory method. She would find vulnerable girls, lure them in with promises of a better life, fly them out to this isolated island, and then manipulate them into Epstein's hands, all under the guise of a massage. And often, she'd even participate in the abuse herself. And you have to understand, this wasn't some chaotic mess. It was an infrastructure built for control. The files, backed up by testimony from employees and investigations, describe a property rigged with hidden cameras, probably for blackmail. There were secret tunnels to move people around without being seen, and the constant flow of elite guests, scientists, politicians. It gave the whole place a veneer of respectability that hid the horrors going on inside. And the reach of this network, it went even further than most people thought, with documents showing connections and claims tied to prominent figures from India. So, for instance, the files mention acclaimed filmmaker Meera Nair was at a party at Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse back in 2009. Her supporters say it was just professional networking, pretty standard in the film world, but others question any association at all with that network. Then, completely separately, a 2017 email shows Epstein claiming that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was dancing and singing for a U.S. president. India's Ministry of External Affairs has called this baseless nonsense from a criminal, basically saying Epstein was just name-dropping to make himself seem more important. So, after sifting through all these case files, all these chilling details, what's the big takeaway here? This scandal, it goes so far beyond the crimes of a few people. It really strikes at the heart of our most trusted institutions. At the end of the day, the Epstein Files document more than just abuse. They document a profound betrayal. It's a violation of the trust that we, the public, place in our leaders, our philanthropists, our innovators. When the people at the very top are implicated in the absolute lowest forms of depravity, it just eats away at the foundation of society. And that just leaves us with this one huge, haunting question. The truth might be coming out. But will there ever be real justice? When the people involved are the same ones who influence laws, the media, and finance, who's left to hold them accountable? These files aren't just a record of crimes from the past. They are a direct challenge to us, right now, forcing us to ask who really has the power and what are they using?